Welcome everyone, I'm Dale and this is Cinema Historia. A pretty maid for hire, a wealthy businessman, and a fancy apartment charade. This week we're going back to 1965 for a romantic comedy called That Funny Feeling, starring Sandra Dee, Bobby Darin, and Donald O'Connor. And this is directed by Richard Thorpe. So where does our story begin this week? Well, our story begins in New York City with actress hopeful Joan Howell, played by Sandra Dee. Joan, who hopes of becoming an aspiring actress, lives in a very small New York apartment with roommate Audrey. In the meantime, Joan is working as a maid for the made-to-order cleaning service. On two occasions while heading to work, she and Tom Milford, played by Bobby Darin, a successful publishing executive and womanizer, accidentally bump into each other at a Sidewalks magazine stand. After a failed audition at the East Side Playhouse one evening, heading home, Joan's cab crashes into another cab carrying Tom Milford. Go figure. Laughing about running into one another for a third time, Tom, calling that street corner a disaster area, asks her for a date. After a nice evening together, Joan, ashamed of her own modest home, invites Tom to the lavish apartment of one of her clients on 62nd Street, whom she believes is out of town for a couple of weeks, pretending it to be hers. What she doesn't know, because she and her employer have never met, that the lavish apartment is actually Tom's. He's shocked to find himself being welcomed to his own place, and with wanting to see how far Joan's prepared to go, Tom has no choice but to move in with his pal Harvey, played by Donald O'Connor. Harvey, who has his own concerns about Joan to do with his divorce, becomes worried about the expensive paintings he's hiding from his wife at Tom's place. After burning a duck dinner for Tom, Joan leaves the apartment for another duck, while Tom arrives to an empty apartment, begins searching for the paintings. Before Joan returns, the dry cleaners show up, wanting Tom's pants that he had booked to be pressed, leaving Tom with no Joan, no duck, and no pants. So, does Joan become aware that Tom is the executive womanizer? Does Tom find out his newfound love is really his maid? Or does an unexpected party of Tom's previous conquests get raided by the cops and change the direction of our story? You can only figure out what happens there. Released August 25th, 1965, this film is the third pairing of Sandra Dee and Bobby Darin, following 1961's Come September and 1962's If a Man Answers. 77% of Google users liked this movie, and film critic Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 70% rating, stating, "Love it, great movie, it is so cute to see Dee and Darin together. Not a well-known movie, but a very enjoyable one. Dee's crazy friends are hilarious, that they are. And a cheesy Sunday afternoon chill-out with a great mix of comedy and romance." And actually I did the 1961 film, Come September, starring Rock Hudson and Gina Lollobrigida on my channel. Please click the link below, and if you have seen it, then you'll enjoy this one as well. And our trivia question this week: was another star the first choice for the male lead of our film? Was another star the first choice for the male lead of this film? So, a little more history and the answer to our trivia question right after this. On their first date, Tom engages Joan in a round of questions to determine what kind of work she does. A tip of the hat to the former game show, What's My Line? Making What's My Line the subject of this week's history. So, What's My Line was a panel game show that originally ran in the United States between 1950 and 1967 on CBS, originally in black and white and later in color. The game uses celebrity panelists to question contestants in order to determine their occupation. The majority of the contestants were from the general public, but there was one weekly mystery guest for whom the panelists were blindfolded. Produced by Mark Goodson and Bill Todman for CBS, the show was initially called Occupation Unknown. What's My Line, usually broadcasted live, debuted on February 2nd, 1950 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, finally settling into its weekly Sunday 10:30 p.m. time slot. The host, then called the moderator, was veteran radio and television newsman John Charles Daly. The panel varied, but after the first few broadcasts, the panel generally consisted of columnist Dorothy Kilgallen, actress Arlene Francis, and comedy writer Hal Block. For the first few seasons, contestants would sign in by writing their name on a chalkboard and meet the panel up close for a casual inspection, and the panel was allowed one initial wild guess. The first contestant on What's My Line was Pat Finch, a hat check girl at the Store Club. That'd be an interesting one. Mystery guests, however, were some of show business's most legendary icons, including Elizabeth Taylor, Alfred Hitchcock, Sean Connery, Maureen O'Hara, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, Doris Day, Henry Fonda, and Steve McQueen, just to name a few. Unknown to the public, for an appearance, mystery guests were paid $500, which would be about $6,300 today, and guest panelists were paid $750, equivalent to about $9,400 today. The 876th and final CBS telecast aired on September 3rd, 1967, highlighted by clips from past telecasts, a visit by the show's first contestants, and the final mystery guest being John Daly himself. What's My Line is on the list of longest-running U.S. primetime network television game shows. It won 3 Emmy Awards for Best Quiz or Audience Participation Show in 1952, 53, and 1958, and the Golden Globe Award for Best TV Show in 1962. Awesome. That's a really big honor, a long-running show. I used to watch it as reruns as a kid back in the late 60s. Great show. And the answer to our trivia question this week, was another star the first choice for the male lead of our film? Yes, and it was Warren Beatty. Yes, Warren Beatty was Universal's first choice for the male lead. Once Beatty bowed out, Universal hit upon the idea of casting Sandra Dee's real-life husband, Bobby Darin. Darin enthusiastically came on board, accepted second billing to Dee, and in the bargain, penned the film's background score and title song, which he sings over the main title. The song That Funny Feeling became a 1966 Golden Globe nominee for Best Original Song for Bobby Darin. Darin, who started his career as a songwriter for Connie Francis, co-wrote and recorded his first million-selling single in 1958 with Splish Splash, followed by his own song, Dream Lover, in 1959. My mother would remember those songs. My mother and father were just getting married at that time. Great songs. I'd like to give a big thank you to my new subscribers. Thanks for jumping on board and helping support my channel. And for everyone else viewing today, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you soon.